take that part of the jury coming in, the rest needs to be made.
I'll let you know. Thank you, Your Honor. We understand that the state of Tennessee called two additional witnesses from one from each family, one from each family and for each victim. So one from Ms. Smith's family and one witness from Ms. Landavazo's family. We object to the testimony under 403 and under the Salazar factors, and also under the United States Constitution.
Also what?
Under the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Ms. Shelton?
Your Honor, the two witnesses will be talking about victim impact, which I believe is allowed under the law, and Shamika Smith is the mother of Makayla Smith. I anticipate she's going to talk about Makayla and the impact that it's had on this offense, or these offenses have had on Makayla Smith before and during and after, and the afternoon that she received a telephone call from Makayla and their exchanges, which was part of the actual offense. And then the effect that it's had on Makayla with her family in school. And then secondly, Landavazo will testify about the loss of Lauren and the impact it's had on his family, and about Lauren and her life, which I believe is allowed by law.
Anything else, Mr. Paul?
Your Honor, should the court overrule our objection, we will request an objection.
All right, the court will overrule the objection. You may have a running objection read in the testimony of the family witnesses. Does the defense have anything else before we?
Judge, there was a matter of the extractions.
Let me address that. The exhibits that were admitted to the FBI, the plaintiff officer that worked on the task force, we, under the court's direction, paper exhibits were redacted. The disc itself, which is voluminous, was not redacted, but was admitted as a redacted document. So I talked to counsel prior to the hearing. I know that redaction is not something that can be done today. A suggestion has been made that that disc become a court exhibit, so it's in the record. I can't imagine that the jury would want to look at that disc, but that would be one way to do it without having to actually do a physical redaction. So what's your response to that, Mr. Poole, or how would we do that?
Judge, my position on that would be leave things as the way they are through the conclusion of this trial. If the jury does not ask to see that exhibit, then we will agree, the defense agrees, to transfer it to a court exhibit. If the jury does want to see a portion of that exhibit, then whatever portion they examine will be made a part of the record, and the remainder will be transferred to the court as its exhibit under a different number.
All right, I'll follow your suggestion to do it that way, but the jury is not to receive the disc in its current form, as long as we're all on the same page and understand that.
Because if the jury wants to see that, it's going to take several hours, but there's no way.
Well, and then it would take several hours for them to review the exhibit. But if we get to that point,
to set it up where they can see it.
right, if we get to that point, then we'll cross that bridge there. Anything else before the jury? My plan would be, of course, to hear the evidence and then break and prepare the charge. I'm assuming that you worked on the draft of the charge anyway, so we'll get to that point and then see where we are time-wise.
Yes, sir.
All right, state ready for the jury?
State's ready.
Is the defense ready? Correct. Proceed, please. Is the state ready to proceed on punishment?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready?
Ready, Your Honor.
State may make it.
Your Honor, at this time, the state of Texas would waive its opening statement.
Mr. Voss?
Your Honor, summary of the defense.
All right, state may proceed.
Am I correct, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would offer what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 256.
Your Honor, we reviewed and stipulated this document and objection.
State's Exhibit 256 is admitted.
May I publish a portion of it to the jury?
Yes, the court has approved the stipulation.
Stipulation of evidence. Kody Lott, the defendant, with the consent and advice of his attorney, enters into the stipulation of evidence with the state of Texas as represented by Maureen Shelton, Criminal District Attorney, Wichita County, Texas. It is hereby agreed and stipulated to by all the parties that Mr. Lott stipulates and agrees that he is one and the same individual subject to an order of deferred adjudication community supervision for the offense of felony theft entered in the District Court of Baylor County, Texas, 50th Judicial District, in a case on the docket of said court entitled The State of Texas versus Kody Lott, number 5556, signed and agreed to on this 20th day of September 2018. And on that, you're going to find behind the order of deferred adjudication where Mr. Lott was placed on 3 years deferred adjudication for the felony offenses. At this time, Your Honor, the state of Texas would re-offer all the evidence that was admitted during the guilt innocence phase.
Evidence admitted during guilt innocence is admitted subject to the prior ruling of the court during that phase of the proceedings.
And the state of Texas would call Shamika Smith.
Will you raise your right hand and be sworn, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. Once you're seated, if you'll adjust the microphone so you can speak directly into the microphone. You may proceed.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Shamika Smith.
And Mrs. Smith, how are you employed?
I'm a first grade teacher at Petrolia Elementary.
And how long have you been a first grade teacher?
I'm going into my 4th year.
And are you married?
Yes, ma'am.
And who are you married to?
Rodney Smith.
And what does Rodney do?
Rodney is the pastor of the church that we attend, Wells Street Church of Christ, and he works for security finance as an HR director. Sorry.
No, you're doing great. And do you have any children?
Yes, I do.
And can you state their names and their ages?
We have Travion, he's 27. We have Kody, he's 20. We have Makayla, she's 15, sorry. And then we have Soraya, and she just turned 6.
And you were in the courtroom when Makayla testified.
Yes.
And I'd like to start off with, back in September 2016, what grade was Makayla in?
She was in 8th grade.
And how did she get home?
She walked. We allowed her to walk.
And did you know Lauren Landavazo?
Yes.
And how did you know Lauren?
We came to know Lauren in elementary, Fowler Elementary. The girls ended up being on a cheer squad together.
So they were good friends?
Yes.
And I'm going to direct your attention to September 2nd of 2016. Okay. What were you doing that day?
Normal day of teaching.
And had you talked to Makayla that morning?
Not that morning before she left, yes.
Okay. And what y'all talk about? Was it just a typical day?
It's just a typical day in the Smith household. Everyone wakes up on the good side of the bed every morning, and just whatever conversation, or we typically make jokes about her dad. It's a typical day. And when we all depart our separate ways, we tell each other bye and that we love each other.
And can you describe Makayla's personality up to that point?
Makayla's so funny. She has a joke for everything. She loves puns. She's just a happy child.
And on September 2nd of 2016, when was the first time you heard from Makayla that afternoon?
I was getting ready to dismiss my students for the day. And we dismissed from our gym, but we have to walk through the cafeteria to get to the gym. Walking through the cafeteria, I met up with another teacher that teaches kindergarten, and her daughter walks home with Makayla, and she picks her up from our house. And when we met, she said that Makayla had forgotten her daughter. So I just had my phone on me already, and I said I'll give her a call and make sure that she goes back and get her. So I proceeded to call Makayla and tell her, to go back and make sure she has a friend with her. And I hear her phone tussling. So I'm thinking that maybe she had butt down me. And so I'm yelling her name to pick up. And so when she finally answered, she was just yelling my name. But
How would you describe her when she's yelling your name?
she was crying, and she kept, calling my name. From that first moment, I thought maybe she was getting into an altercation with another student, and I know that's not her. And so I kept telling her to calm down. I can't understand what you're saying. And I asked her to do that several times, and I was like, what's going on? And that's when she got out. That someone shot Lauren. And I asked her what? And she said, someone shot me. And I was like, what? It just won't register. And I kept asking her, where? And she said, Mommy, I was shot in the chest. And she said, Lauren is not moving. And I then proceeded to run down the hall, and hoping I would run into my principal. I couldn't breathe because it hit me that she was telling me the truth. I did run into my principal and the counselor at the school at that time, and I just told her, I want to go with Makayla, and she said she's been shot. She asked me, do you know where she is? And I said yes, because we tell her to walk the same way home every day, so we know if something happens, we know where she is. They instantly grabbed me, put me in the car, and we were leaving school. I don't recall the drive from out of the parking lot of the school all the way down until we got to the intersection of Southwest and Barnett, because she crossed the median to go through the light. And I told her to go that way because I didn't know where she was in the alley. We seen she wasn't at the beginning of the alley, and I told her to go through the apartments so we could go out. We went out through the apartments and went out through the other end, came out the other end, and we did see a bunch of cars. And we went around, we got out, and we went around, and we seen that it was taped off. And
The crime scene tape?
yes, there was several sections, and we got to the first one, and I told the officer who I was and my daughter, but the whole ride there, I was on the phone and I came back. She was just screaming. She was just screaming. And as a mother, you know the tones of hurt that your children have. And that tone was a scream I've never heard from her or none of my other children. And I remember asking God to please keep letting her scream, because I felt if she stopped, she was gone. After being there, one of the ladies, who I found out who it was later, got the phone from her, and I was like, is she okay? And she's like, she's gonna be fine, she's okay, I'm here with her. And when we had to hang up until we got there, that first section of tape, the officer wouldn't let us through. And so my principal, being who she is, she said, that's your baby. And she pulled through the tape. But then we came across another section of tape, and that's when I was able to get a better look. I couldn't see down the alley. I could just see the start of the alley, and when I looked that way, I seen the bottom of Converse tennis shoes. And at first I thought it was Makayla. And I just lost it. And I didn't know what to do. I was told later on that I had fell to the ground and the officers had to help me up. And I stopped. I couldn't look that way anymore because at that time I didn't know. And I wasn't on the phone with the nurse, so I didn't know the situation of Makayla. And the officer did then walk me to the ambulance and they put me in the front. But before I got there, I was able to catch a glimpse down the alley, and all I could yell was, Makayla's always here. And I seen her arm come up, and I just assumed it was hers because I didn't know if anybody else's child were hurt, because I knew another one of her friends was also African American, so I was just praying that that was my child's arm. Sitting in front of the ambulance, and I couldn't see behind me or whatever, if they had put her in or not. So I got my phone and I called my husband. And I happened to tell him that they me at the hospital. Makayla's been shot. And it didn't register with him at first, and he asked me again. And I said, Makayla's been shot in her chest, and I don't know how bad it was. I guess they finally got her in, and they started driving toward the hospital, and I'm still not knowing, how bad it was. And we get to the hospital, and they take her out first, and then they take me out and walk me in, and from that point, it was like a scene out of a movie. And you see people sitting there wanting to know what's going on and no one's talking to you. It was just Vern and I sitting there, not knowing what was going on with our girl. Rocky and Bianca at the time had been locked out of the hospital because they locked the hospital down and they would have been able to. The clergy of the hospital came to console us. They left and came back. When he came back, he told Vern, I'm going to take you to your wife and I'm going to take you to a family room. Based off of things that you've seen maybe on TV, that when they put you in a family room, it's not going to be good enough. And I'm wondering, am I going to be next? He was gone for a few minutes, and he came back. And he told me he wanted to take me to my husband, and they were going to put us in a room, and I told him I didn't want to go. I needed to know what was going on with Makayla, and he pleaded with me to go with him. And I went because I didn't want to be with my husband at that time. And while we were walking there, we passed by the first family room. And I hear Bianca scream. And the scream still sits with me. Because the way she screamed, I knew Laura was gone. And that's the way she screamed out. I just didn't want to go in the room because I didn't want the signals. And I had seen her fall to her knees. They hadn't got Robbie in at that moment. And when they did, we were in like a small office off to the side. And when he came in, I told him Laura was gone. I could tell by the way beyond the screen that Laura was gone. And they won't tell us about Makayla. I don't know anything about Makayla. They got us into the family room, and just probably, what was probably just a few minutes seemed like forever. They finally came and told us that, you know, Makayla was gonna be okay. Sitting there, having to hear Bianca in the other room. She's bleeding, you know, for her child. And I couldn't sit there. So I walked out and I went to the room so I can hold her and console her. And I was sorry. And I felt so bad because there was nothing I could do. And the whole day was just like a scene out of a movie. And I was like, how is this happening? How is it happening? To a good family, good people, and something is horrible. We were actually living it. And it's like, I couldn't believe it. It still gives me anxiety when Makayla calls me. And our phone pops up, when her picture pops up on my phone, especially for the first year, because I would quickly answer. And my principal said it where if your kids call, you answer. But I have to. Any of my kids call. But when Makayla was calling me, it brought me back to that day. And I'm just like, every time I get ready to answer a phone call from her, I'm thinking hopefully she's calling because either she forgot something and need her dad to bring it, or she's asking if she can go over to a friend's house. And that's still now when she calls or she texts me.
And Shamika, when you first saw Makayla at the hospital, can you describe to the jury how that was?
Makayla's gone to the hospital before for bronchitis. And as a parent, you know that when they fall sick like that, that they're going to be okay. And antibiotics will clear it up. But on that day, I felt so helpless. Because my baby was in pain. And I away. They couldn't get a medicine, take it away. There was no band-aid, you know. They could heal the wounds that she got that day. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do with my kids. But Makayla, being who she is, she's not mommy's gonna be.
She thinks about others first, doesn't she?
All the time. She doesn't like to see her parents upset. She's a daddy's girl. And so she does everything she can to make sure she pleases her dad. Because he hung the moon for her. And she...
Were you there when she was told that Lauren was gone?
Oh, yes. She kept asking about her. And she even asked, could they put us in the same room? And she was like, how is she doing? Robbie and I had made an excuse to go out of the room. We were like, how are we going to tell her? When do we tell her? Do we keep up a lie? I was like, she needs to know. So we talked with her charge nurse and said that we need to go in and tell her because we didn't want her filming the TV channels and she found out on the news. Two of the nurses came in with us just in case they need to be there to calm her down. So we went in, I sat on the bed with her. She said, why, Mom? Why did it have to be Lauren? And she told me in her head, it should have been me. Because Lauren is such a good person and didn't deserve it. And trying to console your child and tell her that you're here for a reason, you're still here for a reason. That did nothing for her. She still fights with the fact that she wasn't good enough to be saved that day. And Lauren's just still here with us. And we battled that with her.
So people always say to you unknowingly that you're the lucky one, that Makayla survived. And there's other issues you're dealing with because Makayla lived and survived the shooting, aren't you?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury some of how it's changed Makayla or in her interaction with family or friends?
Makayla, she stays glued to her cell phone. And normally that would be a typical teenager, but she has to stay on her phone because she feels she has to talk to her friends every day. And if she can't speak to her friends every day, she feels like if she doesn't, that she will lose one of them. And she's not conscious to tell me that she doesn't. So, we can't take her phone away from her, if she's getting bad grades or whatever else, because she broke down on us one time when we tried that. And I had to give it back to her. Because I don't want her to think that, I don't want her to have connections to her friends. And this is every day. Every day. She talks to several of her friends through text messages or Snapchats. And she tells them that she loves them. Every day. And when she told me that she has to do that because she never got a chance to say that to Lauren. Or goodbye when they were about to take their separate ways that day.
What do you call your life now with your family?
I don't know what to call it. Everyone has told us that you'll find it normal. But I asked myself normal. When all you know was your normal. And yeah, some days, they're good days. We laugh and we smile. But when something comes up, it just reverts back to that day. My husband and I no longer watch the news. Because to hear that a child has been taken out by gun violence or injured due to gun violence we can no longer say, oh, let's pray for that family. Now we're saying, we know what they do. Oh, we know what that child is dealing with or having to live with. It's not the same anymore. And I'm that parent that takes great pride in protecting my children. And on that day, at 3:27 a.m., that was taken away from me. Because I felt like I didn't protect her. I felt like I deal with it every day. What if I had called her earlier like I normally do to remind her, don't forget your friend? But that day I did that. It hit different. Friday dismissal time are not the same for me anymore. For the first few weeks, I had to have my teacher's aide take my kids to dismissal. Because I was scared. If I walked into dismissal, then I'd get another phone call. And the stress of living with that. And not being able to get that out your head. We don't let Makayla walk anymore. And although she's in high school, she catches the bus in our neighborhood to go to her high school. We don't let her walk to the bus. We don't let her walk home from the bus. If her dad and I can't be there to get her, we find someone to pick her up. And there was one time her dad was late getting her, and she walked home. And he called me and said, hey, talk to me. I instantly hung up with him and called her. She didn't answer, and I just kept calling her. And when she answered, by the time I was upset, I was like, where are you? And she said, Dad wasn't there, so I walked home. And I made her stay on the phone with me until she got to the house. It's just things like that.
All right, this is how to say with us lawyers.
Thank you, ma'am. You may-
Please state your name.
Landavazo.
And Vern, are you married?
I am.
And who are you married to?
Bianca Landavazo.
And do you two have children, any children?
We have our son Jordan and my daughter Lauren. Jordan is 29, Lauren is 13. And I have a son Tim from my first marriage. He's 36. Jordan is 29.
And they, your sons are in the courtroom and have been part of this trial, correct?
Yes, my son Tim lives in Colorado. He came out for that, and Jordan has been living with us since March of this year. He got a divorce and he came home for a while.
And then how long have you and Bianca been married?
I had trouble with this anyway, but we got married in 1988, so, right? She doesn't know, so 30
no
years.
trouble.
We've been married for 30 years.
And there's quite a difference between Jordan and Lauren.
Yes, 13 years.
And where were you working before Lauren was born?
I had actually was just getting ready to retire from the Air Force. I had dropped my paperwork in 2001, and then shortly after that, we found out that Bianca was pregnant.
And you never had a little girl?
Never had a little girl. I always had a feeling I was going to have a little girl. In fact, when my son Tim was born, all the way up, I was in the room for all three of my children's delivery, and I remember going to the hospital with Tim's mom, and I remember getting ready to go into the delivery room with just a very strong feeling that I was going to have a little girl. Ever since I found out that Tim's mom was pregnant, I had an overwhelming feeling that I was going to have a girl. And something about that day, as soon as I grabbed that gown to put it on, I had a voice just say, no, it's not going to be a girl, it's going to be a boy. And same thing with Jordan. When we found out when Bianca and I were going to have a baby, that just the overwhelming feeling that it was going to be a girl. And how surprised I was when it was not a girl.
So how were you feeling when you found out that Bianca was pregnant with Lauren, which you didn't know she was a girl at the time?
Right. At first we didn't know, but again, having been 13 years of trying and not having had another baby, it just after the shock wore off, I just thought, yeah, this has to be the girl. And then when we went for the ultrasound, a lot of times there's questions, you can't tell the sex of the baby. The picture we got, there was no doubt that was a girl.
And how did you feel when you found out the news?
It felt like that was what was supposed to be. That was the feeling I had been having since 1983 when Tim was born, that I would be the father of a daughter.
And so, were you there when Lauren was born?
I was.
Okay, what did you think?
Instantly, when I saw her, we were told in the delivery room not to take pictures because it blinds the doctors and stuff. So, of course, as soon as I saw they had come out, I took pictures. But just how amazingly beautiful she was. Her eyes were open and just something about, I mean, as soon as she came out, normally they put the baby on the mother's belly or something, and I might even have scooped her away from the doctor at first before that, just to go lay her on the table and look in her eyes and just realize that finally, what that feeling I had, that feeling I had been looking forward to, that it had actually come true. Just amazed at that.
And that amazing young girl, can you tell us a little bit about her childhood?
There's always something about Lauren, and I know all parents have that feeling about their children. There's something special about that child, but even in comparison to my sons, that there was just something about Lauren. It's hard to explain, just that she seemed so much wiser than her years. She always, I remember even being 2 or 3 years old and looking over and seeing her look at me, and not the way she was looking at me, that there was something going on behind there, and it just seemed she was just so much more advanced than you would think a child would be, as far as her compassion for people, her kindness, just how tender she was with other people. I remember going to see Tim after his daughter Dan was born, and his wife at the time was not feeling well. Tim and I went for a walk to have a talk, and when I came back, Tim's mom was telling me that Marina did not feel well and that she had cramps, and she was kind of uncomfortable, and she was just struck with how tender Lauren was and how concerned Lauren was with her. She was patting her on the back, and Lauren was just about to turn 3 at that point. In fact, my ex-wife threw a surprise birthday party for her while we were there, but just for a 3-year-old to be that empathetic, to have that much concern for somebody else, she was kind of struck by that. And I think probably what made me the proudest it was just how she interacted with people, especially other children, how kind she was to them. I never saw her once be mean to somebody, say a mean thing. Quite the opposite. She went out of her way. If she knew that somebody was troubled, she went out of her way to reach out to that person. And when I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the military, and that entails moving around a lot.
Mine also.
And one of the, I mean, there's good things about that. You get to see a lot of different places. You get to do a lot of different things, meet different people. But as a child in school, that's very uncomfortable to be the new kid in school. And what that feels like to go into a new school and not know anybody, and something about lunchtime in a cafeteria when you don't have friends, being a new person. And then to hear the stories, especially afterwards, from kids who knew Lauren in junior high, which can be a pretty tough experience. Kids that age are not always the nicest to each other, but to hear the children, the kids that would be those lonely kids in the cafeteria, and to hear the story how scared they were, just that apprehension, and looking up to see not just somebody coming over, but the really the most amazingly beautiful, radiant person that you could imagine, walking over to them and inviting them over to her table. And watching her just interact with people. I remember a couple of weeks before she died, I took her to the water park, and we were sitting there talking, and I happened to look over a little while later, and the lady was, an adult lady was next to her, and they were talking, and just there's something about watching Lauren interact with people. It just, how beautiful she was, how she radiated kindness.
Vern, I'll tell you this too, and I don't know if you know this, but we've talked to a number of children that, said that your daughter was the person that would walk up to them and sit down and talk to them, make them feel comfortable, and so it's consistent with what you're testifying.
Right, she just, we couldn't be prouder as parents of, you want your children to be good people, you want them to understand that life is not a contest, life is a test, and it's not about what you can do for yourself, it's about what you can do for other people. After she died and hearing the stories, I realized I wasted a lot of breath repeating lessons to her. That she either already knew that, or you only had to tell her once, and not just, okay, I get it, but go out and live it. every day, just the way she interacted with people. I couldn't be more proud.
She had unique eyes, did she not?
Beautiful eyes, just like her mother. Her mother had some most beautiful eyes, and they're very striking, and they were always that same light blue until the last couple of years. It would seem like they would change. Sometimes it would be blue-green or even sometimes gray, but most beautiful, striking eyes.
Well, I will tell you, and you're probably in the courtroom when this happened, but Garrett Ballmar, certainly as a sixth grader, realized that Lauren Landavazo was an eighth grader.
Yes, I can imagine, having been a sixth grade boy myself, that had Lauren as an eighth grader approach me, I would probably still be on cloud nine.
And her personality, would you say, was joyful? I think you described it that way to me.
Overwhelming as it is, thinking back, it's hard to remember times when she wasn't happy. And of course, there were times that she wasn't happy, but for the most part, she would light up her room. And I mean, it didn't have to be anything special. We could be sitting around the house on a rainy Saturday morning and look up from the paper and just be taken back because Lauren would be standing there in some kind of outrageous outfit with makeup put on with eyebrows. She actually looked like a Russian bag lady. Like a unibrow and stuff. Like, what are you doing?
It was did you have a fireplace? Was that her stage?
That was her stage. When she was little, she loved music, loved to sing, and she would get up on the little mantle part of that fireplace, and that was her stage. And those CDs where the kids came along, Kids Bop, I think it's called, she would sing along to those, and if Bianca tried to sing or dance with her, she was very adamant that was her spotlight, and she wasn't sharing it. So.
And Vern, all these memories, and then let's talk about September 2nd, the morning, okay, or even the day before. And what was Lauren's mood?
Actually, the last time I saw Lauren was the night before. September 2nd, I worked for the Air Force, and it was the Labor Day weekend, and they gave the military what they call Family Day that day. So as a civilian, I took a day of leave. Normally, I would have gotten up and, if not woken up Lauren, at least said goodbye to her. But I didn't have to work that day. So that Thursday night, her boyfriend Donovan was over, and when I was getting ready to go to bed, I remember, as usual, she was cradling one of our cats, and I remember going up, and I remember the hug and the kiss I gave her, and the kiss on the top of the head and smelling her hair. And then, like I say, normally the next morning I did not get up, but she was happy. That's Lauren she was surrounded by what she loved, her family, her cats, and Donovan.
She liked the color purple?
She loved purple.
And what was her nickname?
Her nickname was Pooh Bear. From the moment that I held her, she's been my Pooh Bear. So yeah, she was happy, and I was happy. We were happy. We were living the dream. We had everything that was important in life. Not material things are not important. You don't take material things with you. What you take with you is love. And true love. I've never had a purer love, a more unconditional love than I've had with my children. And no offense to my sons, but there's something different about a bond between a father and a daughter. It's something I looked forward to my whole adult life.
And you probably don't know this, but I stalked your Facebook and Bianca's Facebook over the past 2 years, and y'all did family vacations.
Family vacations, and I know sometimes maybe Bianca and I thought, well, maybe we need to go take her and see the world and, go do something like that. But really, when we took vacations, and there's limited time that you can take each year for time off, living away from family, family's always been important to us. So we spent most of our vacations going to visit family. And maybe some kids would say, hey, I'd rather be at Disney World or whatever, but Lauren loved family. She loved being around family. So family vacation to see family was what made her happiest. She loved her family.
And occasionally you let her boyfriend Donovan come along?
Yes, sometimes. Yeah, I was pretty adamant that she would not date until she was at least 16, and very seriously thought that, yes, you can have friends who are boys, but you cannot have a boyfriend. Doesn't always work that way with your children, but again, once I met Donovan and saw what a sweet, loving boy he was, that definitely helped. And again, how happy she was with him, how happy she was to be with him, and how happy that made us to see her in love for the first time.
Vern, direct your attention to September 2nd of 2016, okay? And what were you doing that afternoon?
I was actually doing yard work. I wanted to get the yard done that day so that we had the rest of the weekend and we went to the water park or whatever, that we'd be able to do that. So I remember it was very, very hot that day. extremely hot, and I had done the front part of the yard, and I took a break. I was feeling kind of weak, and so I went in and I was eating lunch, actually in my room on the computer eating lunch, and I had just finished. And I heard commotion outside. I heard that, I'm not sure, I heard neighbors and something about kids being down. And then as I was sitting there trying to process that, I heard Bianca, and just the way she said it, something about kids, and there was just something in her voice. I knew something was wrong, something was horribly wrong. And as I was coming out of the room to try to find out what was going on, I heard the front door close. And by the time I got to it, Bianca wasn't there. So when I went outside, she was already running down the street, and I was kind of calling after her, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And I remember her telling me that we thought kids had been hit by a car at the time, and so she was running that way, and I didn't really know what was going on or where she was going. So instead of following her, right away I jumped in my truck and drove. I didn't know where we were going, and as I was driving down there, and it's right down the corner, I remember at one point stopping the truck and pulling over, thinking, there's 1,000 kids at that school. It's not her, it can't be her. And so I stopped, and I called her cell phone, and I don't know if it rang, it maybe rang only one time, but somebody answered the phone, and instantly what I heard was screaming. I didn't know at the time that it was Bianca screaming, but I heard somebody screaming her name, and the way she was screaming it, I knew, I instantly went cold, and I just knew. I got out of the truck, and I walked down to the corner, and as soon as I got to the corner, I could see the crime scene tape, and as I turned the corner, I almost say my tunnel vision, everything seems kind of, there was a white fog around everything except for Lauren. I saw Lauren lying there. And she wasn't covered, and there was no one around her. And I just remember standing at the crime scene tape. They wouldn't let me go to her. And I could hear Bianca screaming in the background, but that was about all I could hear. And just looking at her and wondering, how come they're not doing anything? How come she was just laying there? She wasn't covered at that time. And I remember, I think I said it out loud, that, how come they're not doing anything? Why is everybody not doing anything? And next thing, when I looked at her, she was covered, and what I saw was her Converse sneakers sticking out of the blanket. And then I noticed some first responders came over and uncovered her and started working on her and doing CPR on her. So at that point, I thought she was still alive, and they were getting ready to put her in the ambulance. And I went to the policeman at the tape, and I told him I was her father, and I wanted to go with her in the ambulance. So they let me into the ambulance, and as we were sitting there, and they were working on her, and I was looking back at them, and that was the first time I had noticed the blood. I didn't notice blood while she was lying there, but when I looked back, I could see her hair, and there was blood in her hair. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that's not good, blood in her hair. But also what I heard was, we have a heartbeat. I heard one of the paramedics say that they had a heartbeat. And then I heard him say, no, we need to start plugging holes. But I thought, oh my God, she's alive. She's alive. So I just remember talking to her on the way down. Please, baby, hold on. Hold on. So when we got to the hospital again, I thought she was alive. We went in, they took her immediately into the room. And I noticed, I didn't know Makayla's parents, but when I saw Shamika there, I knew that had to be Makayla's mom. And I remember hugging her. I remember just praying with her that our daughters would be all right. And I remember calling my parents and telling them what had happened, but also that I thought she was alive because I had heard they had a heartbeat, and not realize it was an artificial heartbeat that they had gotten. But again, I thought she was alive. So while we were waiting in the hallway there, and like Shamika said, Bianca couldn't come in, they had hospital on lockdown. So while we were sitting there in the hallway, then somebody came and took me to a room and said, we'll take you to Bianca. And when I got in there, Bianca was telling me we were in that room for a reason. And I told her, I said, no, baby, I heard him say she had a heartbeat. She's going to be all right. And when he did come in, when the man came in, Bianca instantly fell to her knees and started screaming. I was trying to tell her, no, it's not that. They're just here to tell us what they're going to do to help her. And that's when they told us that she was gone.
Did you get a chance, did they let you touch your daughter or be with your daughter after that?
No, they wouldn't let us at the scene go either. It was being treated as a crime scene.
And then after they told you that Lauren had been killed, did you stay at the hospital or where did you go next?
Yeah, we stayed in that room for a little bit, but then when they lifted the lockdown, we went outside, and I was actually 5 days away from a year of having quit smoking cigarettes, which I thought would be, when I quit, I told myself, that's it, I'm done. I want to be around. I don't want to not be around for my daughter, so I had convinced myself that I was going to quit, but the first thing I did when I went outside was smoke a cigarette.
And did you get a chance at that time, at all that day, to see Lauren?
No. Somebody took us home. I remember that. I remember telling them that I needed to get my truck. It was right around the corner, so they stopped. And I do remember the cops stopping. I drive a black Ford pickup and long hair, so I do remember being stopped by the police. Told them who I was, and they let me go home. But just instantly walking into the house, knowing that the life of the house was gone.
Did you know who would do this to your daughter?
A couple days before, or even the day before, she had mentioned there was a girl that was wanting to fight her or something about a misunderstanding. Maybe Lauren had stuck up for somebody and then kind of drawn the ire of the person who was picking on her, she was sticking up for. And honestly, what I thought once I heard she was shot, I thought maybe it had something to do with that. Maybe a brother or something, if somebody had driven by or something like that. Maybe she had seen something illegal happen. I couldn't imagine that somebody had targeted her and shot her, killed her. It didn't register.
You remember that whole weekend, this happened on a Friday, up until Sunday when the defendant was apprehended. What do you remember going through your emotion and how to deal with, if you remember anything?
Again, from the moment it happened, it almost felt like we were being guided from above. There wasn't really too much that we had to choose to do. Things just were happening. Things that seemed to be, it just felt like we were being guided.
And you had to do something the father never wants to do, and that's bury your daughter?
Right, well, we didn't have her buried. We had actually talked with Lauren about our wishes when we died, that we wanted to be cremated. And Lauren had expressed that was what she wanted to. But what I didn't expect was, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but after that Sunday night community candlelight vigil that they had, after I got up and briefly spoke to the community to thank them for their support, and that was afterwards, people that I knew were coming up and giving us hugs. And I remember seeing out of the corner of my eye a woman standing off to the side very patiently for about half an hour waiting to talk to me. So when I did talk to her, she told me something that kind of changed the way things went, I think. She was telling me that at the time she was told that a nurse was kneeling with Lauren on the scene and was comforting her and had asked her if something about her daddy, and she had said that her daddy was her pastor. Or I think she had asked her if she was Christian, is what she had asked her. The lady told me the story, who said she'd asked if she was Christian, and Lauren's response had been, my daddy is my pastor. So when this woman told me that, I thought, well, I'm not a pastor, I work for the Air Force. So that was Sunday night, I was kind of puzzled at that, and it actually was something that was in between trying to process what happened, was kind of gnawing at me. I was trying to figure out why, if those were my daughter's last words, why would she say that? What was the meaning behind that? And at the end of every day, we were surrounded by family, and there were always dozens of people at the house, friends and family. And at the end of the day, Bianca and I would take a walk up around the block we live on, up to a quiet part of that. It was dark and quiet. It was usually at midnight, symbolic of having gotten through a day that we didn't think we would survive. and going for those walks. And as we were doing one of those walks one night, it kind of hit me that, again, believing that Lauren had last words, that Lauren wanted me to be the one to tell the world about her, to tell the world about her life. We're not religious people. We don't, I consider ourselves spiritual, but we're not religious people. I don't consider myself a Christian, but we do have beliefs of a God and angels, afterlife, but not affiliated with religion. And kind of what I thought that my daughter's message to me was that she wanted me to be the one, not to have somebody who didn't know her get up and talk about beliefs that weren't necessarily ours. And it just didn't seem, it's not something that I could allow, somebody who didn't know her to get up and tell the story of her life. So at that point I decided that I had to be the one to do that. And in addition to the other things we had to do to prepare for that, to get ready to get at something, again, my worst fear in life, something happening to one of my children, and you're not supposed to have favorites, but it's just something different about a man having sons and a man having a daughter, for me personally anyway. But I just felt like that was my responsibility as her father, and again, thinking that those were her last words. Now, I think what happened was there was confusion, and I'm pretty sure they were talking about Makayla after the fact, but at that time I thought, that's what I'm supposed to do.
And Vern, did you talk?
I did. I was able to just get up and talk about, mostly what I was struck by afterwards was not the specifics of who or how. It's just the fact that somebody that beautiful, that loving, that kind, could be taken away. There's something wrong. I already knew the world was best. If you don't understand that or realize that, you're not paying attention. As human beings, we're failing our test. We treat each other horribly every single day. Horrible things happen. Just trying to make sense of all of it and be able to try to explain how Lauren was not like that. She didn't care about skin color. She didn't care about somebody's sexuality. She didn't care about their religious beliefs. None of those things mattered to her. What mattered was the person.
And then did you make a request to the police department asking to release Lauren's jewelry?
Yes, she had jewelry, especially the necklace that Donovan had bought her. It was a beautiful diamond pendant. That family doesn't have a whole bunch, and for them to realize how in love those two were and just help him get her that gift, that was a very important gift to her. That was the most important thing to us, to be able to get that. Again,
What did you do with it?
we tried to give it back to Donovan. I think we...
We have.
Okay, we did. I'm sorry. We did give it back to Donovan. We thought that he should have that.
And then, was there a memorial that sprung up?
Yes, I guess almost immediately. On the spot where she was killed, and I know initially we couldn't go see it. We couldn't go there. In fact, when we would go anywhere, avoiding that on purpose, actually, it was hard for us to go there and see that. Kind of like everything else, since then there's always mixed emotions. Part of it was just, first of all, overwhelmed by how big that thing got, how quickly it got, and how many people were affected by that.
And can you tell the jury some of the things that were out there? I would assume, Lauren's friends and just people that didn't know what else to do. They put little things out there.
Right, there's a lot of purple, overwhelmingly purple. In fact, I wish I would have brought their picture. Somebody took an amazing picture of that memorial that night. And a lot of purple, a lot of bears, a lot of teddy bears, a lot of Winnie the Pooh bears.
And now there's a plaque that's attached to the fence.
Yes, my brother Randy got that made for her. One of the beautiful gifts that is on the fence. And the people who live in that house have been more gracious of allowing that memorial and for us to put that on their fence. But it's kind of a place that people in the community go, because again, we had her cremated. She doesn't have a grave that people can visit. So to the memorial.
People still visit to this day, do they not?
Yes, they do. In fact, I heard yesterday after the verdict that people were going out there, and that's kind of a congregation place for people.
And out of this horrific tragedy, what have you and Bianca tried to do?
We have an amazing legacy that Lauren left behind of kindness, helping other people. That's always been our beliefs as well, but we realize that had Lauren lived, if Lauren were alive, she would spend her life trying to help others. somehow, some way, we didn't know how. But we felt a responsibility to continue that legacy, to continue the things that we taught her and to try to spread that as much as we can. So we've addressed issues like bullying in school. I know bullying, when I was a kid, it was almost seemed like a rite of passage. It was just something that happened. But to have, again, nothing more important than a child, anything we can do to help children, anything we can do to make it a better world for kids, which, again, as a parent, there is no greater treasure in life. There's nothing you will ever achieve. There's no title you'll have, no material wealth you'll ever have that is more important than a child, or no title more important than mommy or daddy.
There's a statue of a horse that's out at the junior high now?
Yes, actually a girl that I worked with in the Air Force for one day, she came over to our section. There was supposed to be a sign there, and then they moved her somewhere else. But she was touched enough by what happened to organize that as a memorial for not just Lauren, but Makayla as well. That spirit that they had, that friendship, that bond of kindness and love.
And their words are on the horse, correct?
And the horse's name is forever. And that's the reason that Makayla named it. That was symbolic of her love for Lauren, their love for each other.
There's also a bench out there too, right?
The junior high made a memorial bench there. They have memorials in the school, the library. They had the kids in art class as a way to help them as well, to make tiles, art tiles that they have on the ceiling there. It kind of turned the library there into a little bit of a war memorial as well.
And there's also, I think the Friday before this trial started, there was a blood drive in Lauren's name.
Yes. The Masons in town had been for several years doing it was a 9/11 blood drive to honor first responders, especially from 9/11, but also the first responders in our own community who do so much every day to serve and protect the rest of us.
And then earlier this year, out by our multi-purpose event center, there's an area that's, why don't you tell us what that area is? That was
something that, after this happened, the news of this, what happened, went out around the world, and having been in the military, we have friends around the world. One of the people that reached out to us was somebody who was associated with the thing that did these Angels of Hope statue. I had never heard of it. It was from a book by an author, and it was about a grieving mother and a statue that she would go to visit. And that statue was based on a real thing from, I believe it was China or Japan or something, that it was basically a memorial for parents who did not have a grave of a child to mourn at. And when people started asking the author of the book where they could go for this statue, he started commissioning those statues. And the first one they built in Salt Lake City, Utah, but somebody reached out to us about that. And it was another one of those things that when the lady who reached out to the foundation, you have to be approved for those, told us that we had been approved for one, and then told us that the cost of the statue, basically you have to buy the statue. We had already asked the community to stop giving us money. People were doing GoFundMes and things like that. And eventually it got to the point where it was kind of getting overwhelming. I wanted people to stop giving us money and start giving money to others in the community, that there's so much need around us. So if you feel the need to help in Lauren's honor, then please give that money to the Humane Society or to a homeless shelter or something that we, money not important to us. Please don't give us any more. So we had already asked people to stop giving us money, and we didn't think that we're not going to go ask people now to give money for that. So we just thought that was not something that we would do, and we kind of put it on the back burner. And then one day we were talking to our counselor, and she mentioned that the author of that book was coming to town and asked if we wanted to go meet him. So it was just another one of those things where we felt we were being guided. And once we talked to the author, and there was a kind of a fundraiser that was going on that night. I guess the next day, people who were there donated money for that. But again, with our state of mind, we weren't really sure what was going on. But eventually we knew we would be able to build that something that we could have in Wichita Falls. That unfortunately there is a need for people to come together and grieve, to grieve together, but also to heal together.
And there's several names. I've been out there and by myself, and there's names that are in marble.
Yes, that's the donor wall. Those are the people who either donated money or helped us with the landscaping or the wiring for the electrical or the irrigation for the plants. There was just a lot of work that went into that. And it was just another way the community came together and donated things But it's an absolutely beautiful, peaceful, like I said, it's not a cemetery. And for us, the memorial where she was killed is always going to be a painful place to go to, the place where your daughter died. This, in the setting where it is, it's by the river. It's just very serene, very peaceful, and it allows us to go there. And nature to us is always healing. To be in the beauty of nature is very healing for us. So.
And then at night it lights up?
It is light up at night, and that was another thing we didn't want it in the cemetery. We wanted it to be accessible. As a grieving parent, you're not on a time schedule when you can grieve or when you want to go out and reflect or try to heal. So we wanted it something that would be accessible to anybody, anytime.
And Vern, excuse me, do you still talk to Lauren?
There's not a time I don't. I mean, I'm always talking to Lauren, always thinking about her. It's not the same. I know we talked a lot when she was alive, and we hugged and kissed, and we're a very affectionate family. That's how I was raised. But now we kiss pictures, and when we talk to her, we have to talk to her in our heart.
And then, when we talk about how your lives have been affected, how was your work affected?
Initially, work, immediately, everything else in life, including work, didn't seem important. It didn't seem like, first of all, that we were going to survive what had happened. Grief is a very real physical pain that has the capacity to kill, and we always felt like it would.
And then how did you feel once you found out who had committed this murder of your daughter?
Just shocked and stunned, and the picture I saw in the paper, how evil he looked, and just struck by the fact that face is the last thing she had to look at. That just, it infuriates you. And again, for what reason? There's not, I don't know that I've ever even really asked why, because regardless of the answer to that, it's never going to be something that's acceptable. There's no acceptable answer to why.
Is there anything that you want this jury to know that you and I have talked about this morning?
Again, that even though he killed our daughter's body, he took her physical self away. He did not kill her spirit. Her spirit is bigger than ever, and I always knew she would have an impact in the world. I just never dreamed that it would be the way it has. But I think she's made a bigger impact with her death than probably possible while she was alive. It just, so many people, especially if you're a parent, that's your biggest fear, something happening to your child. And when you face your biggest fear in life, and it doesn't kill you like you think it will, and it doesn't destroy you, like I say, you have to reflect and try to figure out why you're still here, why she's gone, but not get bitter about it. And again, we have an amazing legacy that we still have to carry out and do the things that she would have done while she was still here, and try to spread that love and that kindness. The world needs more of that.
Vern, when did you go back to work?
It took me, I was about 3 months after I was able to start going back to work, and after probably not even a week or so doing that, Bianca's stepmom died. And between what had just happened and then another death in the family, I just knew that I couldn't sit at work. Bianca needed me. She needed me to be there. So it was actually about 4 months before I was able to go back to work.
And how do you and Bianca get through the day?
One day at a time, same way we have since it started. Initially, like I said, it didn't feel like we were going to have to do it very much. It really did feel like our hearts would just stop. We would not survive this. Nothing else mattered. It just, waiting to die is kind of what it feels like.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Any objection from the state?
No, sir.
The court will take judicial notice of the contents of this file. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to excuse you with the bailiff. Don't discuss the case, don't form or express your opinions about the case. Let me check on the status of the court's instructions, and I'll inform you as soon as I know that. Jury's recessed. Be seated, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit more work to do on the court's charge, so I'm going to go ahead and send you to an early lunch until 12:15. By the time you get back, we'll be ready to present the charge and the opposing arguments to you. Then you can deliberate your punishment verdict. As before, while you're on break, don't discuss the case, don't form or express the opinions about the case, and avoid the media reports of the case. If you'll try to be back here just before 12:15, we'll get started at that time. Jury's recessed. Be seated, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this time I'll present the court's charge on punishment. You have your copies there in your seats, and then we'll do the closing arguments, and you can deliberate your verdict. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant, Kody Lott, has been found guilty by you of the felony offenses of murder, a first-degree felony, and aggravated assault, a second-degree felony. Count 1. For the murder charge, you are instructed it becomes your duty to assess its punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for life or a term not more than 99 years or less than 5 years. In addition, you may assess a fine not to exceed $10,000. Count 2. For the aggravated assault charge, the punishment authorized for this offense is confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. In addition, you may assess a fine not to exceed $10,000. For the aggravated assault charge in this case, the defendant has filed before trial his sworn motion in which he states that he's never before been convicted of a felony in this or any other state. And in the event he is convicted, that he be granted for community supervision. If the punishment assessed by you is not more than 10 years confinement in the the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division, and you further find that he's never been convicted of a felony in this state or any other state, and you desire to recommend community supervision, let your verdict show the punishment which you assess and show that the defendant has never before been convicted of a felony in this or any other state, and further show that you recommend his sentence be suspended. The conditions of community supervision which this court may impose may include but shall not be limited to the following. 1. Commit no offense against the laws of this state or any other state or the United States. 2. Avoid injurious or vicious habits. 3. Avoid persons or places of disreputable or harmful character. 4. That he refrain from entering or frequenting any place of ill repute or disreputable or harmful character. 5. That he provide for and support his dependents in accordance with his legal and moral responsibilities. 6. Remain in Wichita County and under no circumstances leave Wichita County except with the written consent of the court. 7. Report to the community supervision officer as directed, namely report in person to his assigned community supervision and corrections department officer once each month. Permit supervision officer or anyone under his direction to visit said defendant at his home, place of business, place of employment, or elsewhere during the term of supervision. 9. That he pay his fine if one be assessed and all court costs in one or several sums and make restitution or reparations in any sum that the court shall determine. 10. That he pay a monthly supervision fee in the amount of $50 per month. 11. That he work without compensation in a community service project for projects to be designated by the Community Supervision and Corrections Department. 12. That he submit a urine sample to be used for the detection of illicit drugs or alcohol to the supervision department for testing and for order. 13. To the best of his ability, work at some suitable gainful employment. 14. That he report himself so as not to injure, endanger, or corrupt the morals or health of himself or others. Number 1. Under the law applicable to both counts in this case, the defendant, if sentenced to a term of imprisonment, may earn time off the period of incarceration imposed through the award of good conduct time. Prison authorities may award good conduct time to a prisoner who exhibits good behavior, diligence in carrying out prison work assignments, and intensive rehabilitation. If a prisoner engages in misconduct, prison authorities may also take away all or part of any good conduct time earned by the prisoner. It is also possible that the length of time for which the defendant will be in prison might be reduced by the award of parole. Under the law applicable in this case, if the defendant is sentenced to a term of imprisonment, he will not become eligible for parole until the actual time served equals 1/2 of the sentence imposed, or 30 years, whichever is less. Eligibility for parole does not guarantee that parole will be granted. It cannot accurately be predicted how the parole law and good conduct time might be applied to this defendant if he is sentenced to a term of imprisonment, because the application of these laws will depend on decisions made by prison and parole authorities. You may consider the existence of the parole law and good conduct time. However, you are not to consider the extent to which good conduct time may be awarded to or forfeited by this particular defendant. You are not to consider the manner in which the parole law may be applied to this particular defendant. 2. Our law provides that a defendant may testify in his own behalf if he elects to do so. This is a right given to a defendant, and in the event that he elects not to testify, then that fact cannot be taken as a circumstance against him. In this case, the defendant has elected not to testify, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer to or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it into consideration for any purpose whatsoever. 3. You are instructed that if there is any testimony before you in this case regarding the defendant having committed offenses other than the offenses alleged against him in the indictment in this case, you cannot consider said testimony for any purpose unless you find and believe beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such other offenses. Said evidence was admitted before you for the purpose of aiding you, if it does aid you, in determining the appropriate punishment to the defendant for the charge on trial. If you do not believe that the defendant committed the other offenses, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, then you will not consider the offenses for any other purpose. 4. It will not be proper for you to determine the penalty to be assessed and fix the same by lot, chance, or any other method than by a full, fair, and free exercise of the opinion of the individual jurors under the evidence admitted before you. Do not let bias, prejudice, sympathy, resentment, or any such emotion play any part in your deliberation. 5. In deliberating on the case, you are not to refer to or discuss any matter or issue not in evidence before you. Neither shall you separate from each other nor talk with anyone not in the jury. 6. You are the exclusive judges of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and of the weight to be given to the testimony, but you are bound to receive the law from the court which is herein given you to be governed thereby. 7. After argument of counsel, you will retire to issue your verdict. After you have arrived at your verdict, you may use the form attached hereto by having your presiding juror sign her name to the form that conforms to your verdict. Signed and entered this 20th day of September 2018, Robert P. Brotherton, presiding judge. The following verdict forms are provided for your use. Count 1. We, the jury, having found the defendant, Kody Lott, guilty of the offense of murder as alleged in the indictment, assesses punishment and confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for life. In addition, we assess a fine of blank dollars, and that blank is provided in the event you assess a fine. Count 1, second page. We, the jury, having found the defendant, Kody Lott, guilty of the offense of murder as alleged in the indictment, assesses punishment and confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a blank term of years. In addition, we assess a fine of blank dollars. Count 2, the first verdict form. We, the jury, having found the defendant, Kody Lott, guilty of the offense of aggravated assault, assesses punishment and confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a term of blank years and a fine of blank dollars. We further find that the defendant has never been convicted of a felony in this state or any other state, and we recommend the following. 1, the penitentiary time be suspended and the defendant be placed on community supervision. The fine be suspended and a place to check either yes or no. And finally, verdict form count 2, we, the jury, having found the defendant, Kody Lott, guilty of the offense of aggravated assault as alleged in the indictment, assesses punishment and confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a term of blank years. In addition, we assess a fine of blank dollars. Once again, your verdict as to each count must be unanimous. The verdict form must be signed by your presiding juror. With that, the court will recognize the state for its initial argument.
May it please the court. He said this was a belt buckle. The only way you use that as a belt buckle is if you have a rope full of belts. How does someone carry something like this? It's only meant to hurt another person. This guy is not much of an advertisement for civilization, is it? Based on what you've heard. He is violent, he is manipulative, and he's a predator. You heard Shamika testify this morning. You heard Byrne testify. And I saw that box of tissue passed around. You know, someone didn't need a tissue at all. I believe she did. He didn't. Why? I submit to you, it's reasonable. It's like I told you yesterday, he has no conscience. And folks, let me tell you, there is no creature on earth of any species that frightens me more than a human being without a conscience. Because they will do anything. It doesn't bother them. They can kill somebody, go off, drink a beer, and have a good night's sleep and never think about it again. And that's what happened. That's what happened in this case. That's why we're not trying to hide anything. We're asking for a sentence of life in this case. I told you, as you said up here, part of the larger panel, that the way to stay through his intent is through acts done or words spoken. Well, the way we prove to you what a person is like is through acts done, through words spoken. Maureen's going to cover that with you when she closes the argument. Right now, what I want to discuss with you, a little bit about the witnesses in this case who were victims, the family who became victims because of this man. Let me tell you that being at the scene of a crime, a violent crime, is a lot different from reading about it in the newspaper, hearing about it on television, or even catching it secondhand. In a newspaper, you'll read that Joe Blow murdered his wife and give the details of it. On television, you'll see him in handcuffs, being led off into jail and catch a little bit of the details. Neither newspaper nor television can bring you the pungent odor of fresh, warm blood beginning to coagulate. You've got to be at the crime scene. Nor can they bring you the sight of panic and fear. These things that you normally don't think about seeing, you see them. It's like Jamie said in this case. She's driving her 9-year-old son after she picked him up, and she sees who I would assume from the evidence is Garrett running. She said he wasn't just jogging home after school. He was panicked, he was in fear, and she could tell it just from his actions. You can see that. And if you're out there at the scene when those bullets start being fired by this man, and all those kids running, panicked, neither the newspaper nor the television can bring you the sounds of panic. Those kids are out there screaming. They're running. You can hear their footsteps on the pavement. And many times, people who have been at the actual crime scenes, they can hear their footsteps on the grass. Their senses are heightened. You're aware of what's going on around. Oh yeah, that's what the victims are. The newspapers, the television, they can't bring you the death grip exerted over a binder as a little girl falls to the ground and the last breath of life slips from her mutilated body. They don't bring you that. They can't. And with the newspaper, you just turn the page and you're on to something else. Television, you change the channels. You can never leave the actual scene of a violent crime. And the victim doesn't get up and appear in some other show the next week. No, the victim stays down and dead. And you try to wash the blood off. Don't go to the crime scene if you don't have to. I've been to so many, it's ruined me, folks. You try to wash the blood off. You try to wash the stench of death out of your hair and off your clothes. And you can't do it for years. It sticks with you. And isn't that what you got from these witnesses who were out there? Those children, those adults? They were reliving those experiences. They'll relive them for a long, long time. They are his victims. And you know about his victim, Makayla, don't you? Oh, yeah. She's got a bullet inside her chest still. And Makayla tries to maintain a happy attitude when people are around. She wants other people to be happy. She tries to project that herself. But you know, she's got some problems because of this. Her mother explained it. She has to help her phone. They can't discipline her like we can discipline children by taking their phone away. She has to be in contact with her friends. She lost a good friend, Lauren. She didn't tell Lauren she loved her that day. She just spent a little time with her after school. They weren't in class together, and it bothers her. And she likes to talk to her friends every day and just say something nice to them in case something happened. She has some pain occasionally. And I'll ask her, what happens with Makayla when no one's around? Consider at night when she turns off the light, crawls into bed, she is truly all alone. Just herself and the darkness and the demons. The demons that come when she changes position and that bullet is felt and she relives that tragedy and the fear. She's his victim. Rodney and Shamika, aren't they lucky? Wow, their daughter lived and does live. What did Shamika tell you? Oh, we're thankful to God for that. But it's radically changed their lives. Makayla's 15 years old and cannot walk home from school. I'll tell you, when she's in college, she won't be able to walk home from college. When she grows up, gets married, and has children, she's on her way home, her parents will worry about her until she gets there. And every time she calls, it's like Shamika told you. It's from her. What is this call about? They relive that. And you'll say, well, they'll get over that in a couple of years. It's been a couple of years, and it's like it happened yesterday. And forever will be. Shamika and Rodney, they are his victims. Lauren, icy blue eyes, sweet smile. It was Jamie that said it. Her pretty eyes were open. Never to be seen again. Her sweet voice, the kind words she spoke, never to be heard again. A hug from her, never to be felt again. Lauren was his victim. And then you heard from Vernon, Lauren's dad. And he told you about the change in the The grief was so bad, they didn't think they would live. For a period of time, they're getting up at midnight and going on a walk just to celebrate making another day. Can you imagine that kind of tragedy in your lives? But they're strong. They stayed with it. And he told you the other problems they have. I don't need to go over those with you. Said he went back to work, just to show what it is. It was several months, and what is it? You lose track of time. You don't really remember. But 3 months or so, he goes back to work. And a tragedy like this, finally you go back to work, and everyone looks at you like you're some kind of alien. I'm sorry, Vern. They don't know what to say. They stay away from you for a while. They don't know how to act. Everyone, your co-workers, your boss, everyone. So finally the workday's over and you go home and it's even worse. Your spouse is real clingy. Afraid they'll lose you too. What's going on in their minds? So you say, well, I'll get away. I'll go to my room. Let me lay down or maybe sit in a chair and read back in my bedroom. Except on the way you pass Lauren's room. Every day. And you decide, I'm going to move on. But you never really move on. You try to forget about it, and that makes it even worse. You have to get out from under this shadow. That's all you want to do. And you try, and then you pass your wife, and you see her sad face, and it knocks you back down again. What's going on now? It's going to go on like Smith forever for them. Because Vern is one of his victims. And then Bianca, the mother. Sweet lady over there. Sad face. She is going to leave this courtroom today, go back to Wichita Falls, go to the fireplace where ashes of Lauren are in the urn. And she's going to gently caress that urn, I would submit to you, and say, hi, Lauren. It's your mother. Guess what happened today? In exchange for your life, the jury gave him, I don't know. That's why the state is asking you for a sentence of life.
I was saying that we respect and accept your verdict in the last phase of trial, the guilty verdict. But this is a different phase. This is a phase about punishment. There is no specific calculation of years in these instructions. The only guidance you're given on calculation of this sentence is on Section 4, a full, fair, and free exercise of opinion of the individual jurors. I ask that you consider all factors presented in this case, in both the guilt innocence phase and in the punishment phase, when determining and deliberating your verdict. All factors. That includes, of course, the pain that Kody Lott caused. That includes the murder of Lauren Landavazo. But that also includes severe mental illness, which even the state's paid expert agreed that Kody Lott had a severe mental illness. And even the state's expert agreed that that did play a part in this horrible tragedy. They disagreed, the state's expert and the defense expert, on what part that played how that played into drug use, how that played into some medications that may have been just abused or may have been used to self-medicate. But they both agreed that severe mental illness did play a part in this, even the state's expert. The state, I expect, wants you to believe that Kody Lott will never change. And there's been evidence put on that his mental illness is lasting. But there's also evidence that mental illness symptoms can and are controlled by antipsychotic medications. When I look back, even 15 years ago, I was a different person 15 years ago than I am today. And I expect when you look back 20, 30 years, you were a different person than you are now. 40 years ago, AIDS was a death sentence. 50 years ago, the antipsychotics that control Kody Lott's symptoms of his schizoaffective severe mental illness, those didn't exist 50 years ago. We don't know what the world is going to look like 40 years from now, or 50 years from now, or 60 years from now. But I am asking that you weigh all the factors when you return your verdict, and that I am asking after you deliberate that you return a verdict that reflects all the complexities of this case and all the factors of this case. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the Smiths and the Landavazos have every right to be angry, but yet they have grace. I couldn't do it. They amaze me. Every day they amaze me. I asked the Smiths to trust me with their daughter, and they did, and you got to hear from Makayla. I asked the Landavazos to trust me with the memory of their daughter, and they did. What I'm going to ask you to do, before I begin, my actual closing is to talk about the charge, which you've been given. I ask that you look on page 3. The maximum in this case that you can give a defendant is life in prison. And although you can't consider the parole laws, I will tell you on paragraph 3, it tells you that even if a person gets a life sentence, they're eligible for actual time served equaling 30 years, because life in Texas is based upon a 60-year life. So even if you give a life sentence, a person can serve day for day for 30 years before they're eligible for a parole hearing. It doesn't mean they're going to get it. Okay? Page 4, again, the instruction is don't let bias, prejudice, sympathy, or resentment, or any emotion play in any part of your deliberations. Remember again, like I said yesterday, the demeanor, the pain, the emotion, Shamika Smith and Vern Landavazo, you are absolutely allowed to take into account, and I ask that you do, with the agony and the pain that those two families have had to endure. You can get to your verdict forms. And the first one, I know that evil man sitting over there was only 20 years at the time, now 22, seems young. Think of the devastation that he caused those two families. It will carry on beyond their lives. That first verdict form is for life. And that's what I'll be asking you for, is a life sentence. And then it has a blank spot for a fine. You can do up to $10,000 if you want to send a message. If not, I don't care about the fine. What I care about is the incarceration of putting evil behind bars for the rest of his life. The next verdict form is if you decide to do a number of years. In Texas, the maximum sentence is life, but in Texas it'll say 99 years or life. But I submit to you, life is the maximum. If you choose a number of years, that's where you put the number in and the fine there, up to $10,000. Verdict form 3, which is quite frankly an insult. That's where you could get probation on the aggravated assault charge. And then verdict form, the last verdict form, number 4. Makayla Smith still has a bullet in her chest. I submit to you that alone is worth 20 years, the maximum sentence given on an aggravated assault, and I ask you for the 20 years. A lot of times juries ask if it's going to be consecutive, can it be sacked, or does it run at the same time? And that's not a jury's decision, that's up to the judge. In most situations in Texas, the sentences run concurrently or at the same time. Lauren and Makayla, how I started this was two 13-year-olds walking home from school just like any other day. Two friends talking about what little old 13-year-olds do. He ended one life with that 13-year-old little girl with that dad and the mom and brothers. Then he forever changed the life of the other little girl who's 13, who has a mom and a dad, and brothers and sisters, family. I'll throw it away. Acts done and words spoken. So what I'd like to do with you all today is, let's look at some of his words. God worked for that girl that today because had put the gun up right before they caught me, and I was on my way to get a sack of weed. And forget about this ordeal is what he calls it, ordeal. If they wouldn't have pulled me over, I don't know if they would have ever got me. He certainly wasn't going to have some tinge of remorse and confess. Thank God she called 911, as I told you in my last closing. If he ever gets out of jail, he's telling you what he's going to do. He's telling you the future, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Like it would happen again, you know? Like it would happen again. He's telling you he won't stop. He's telling you he'll do it again. And that was 2 days after what he did. 2 days. And he's still not remorseful. When being interviewed by Detective Killingsworth, he responded, I said, man, what if I wanted to go into a fucking mall? These are the times we live in. This is the evil that surrounds us. And we have evil sitting right over there at council table, looking straight ahead, won't look at me, will he? He's proud of what he did, why won't he look at me? And unleash this anger I had. I thought to myself, I might as well kill someone who is going to be worth it. If I have to spend the rest of my life in prison, who is it going to be for? He's telling you what he should get, what type of sentence he should get. He's telling you he knew he was going to have to spend the rest of his life in prison because he was going to do it no matter what. Whether it was Lauren, whether it was Makayla, he was going to do it. Who's it going to be for? I have to sacrifice someone of good quality for the sacrifice. Good quality. I submit to you, that's a quality family right over there. Didn't deserve it. No one deserved what he did that day. I just meant I want them to announce it as like it's assassination. And then he laughs. The audacity to laugh. After he's done this. I mean, this is 2 days later. He thinks it's funny. He's on this assassination thing. This senseless act of violence, I said, how is it senseless? There was nothing but sense put into it. I said that it's a sophisticated assassination. I said it 3 times, here we go again, in the same statement. Like I was going to do it like an assassination. Is what it pissed me off when Darrell Franklin said the senseless act of violence. I said, dude, this was a sophisticated fucking assassination. He wanted everybody to know what his intention was 2 days later. Right before I got up there with the gun, when I saw her walking, this is how I should put it. I thought she was gorgeous and everything. When I saw her walk with the black girls, I guess it just, how my mind played, I said, fuck this bitch. Like I didn't see no worth in her. No worth in her. Her parents saw worth in her. The Smiths saw worth in her. Makayla saw worth in her. But that evil man sitting right over there, looking at the screen, didn't see worth in her. He's a cold, callous, calculated killer. That's what it comes down to. He told you what he would have done. Had he had more bullets, we'd have 2 deceased 13-year-old little girls who were walking home on a sunny September afternoon. He didn't want to witness. Brave little girl right there. But she's forever changed. Her family's forever changed. He likes to quote Albert Einstein, so here we go. This is why I implore you to do what's right and what's just. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, and I submit to you he has and will continue. He'll never stop because he is evil. But because of those who look and do nothing. It's in your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the news and you see the feeds. You see people complaining about this defendant didn't get this or that defendant didn't get enough. It's in your hands. It's your duty, it's your obligation to do what's just and what's right. And only you can do it. Acts done and words spoken. I submit to you that's the only choice in this situation. Can you think of a situation where it's any worse? A stranger, 2 little girls walking home from school, families. You see the families are good people. Good people. And I submit to you, don't ask what he deserves. He had his day in court, he had it yesterday, he had it for almost 2 weeks. Ask yourself what they deserve. What do the families deserve? The Landavazos, are they gonna get to see a cap and gown on their little daughter? Did they get to go to freshman orientation with her? No. Is Bianca going to get to plan a wedding of a beautiful daughter? Is Vern going to get to walk his daughter down the aisle? Is there going to be a first job? Is there going to be a first apartment where you help them move in, you complain the whole time? I know I certainly did with my daughter, you know? But they're not going to have that. Oh, they're going to have birthdays, and they're going to have Christmases, and they're going to have Mother's Day and Father's Day. They won't have any more first. That's over. Every time someone discusses less than life in that jury room, I beg you and I implore you to play this.
Jury reached its punishment verdict.
We know.
Once again, I will read the verdict and ask you if this is the unanimous verdict of the jury. Count one, we the jury, having found the defendant Kody Lott guilty of the offense of murder as alleged in the indictment, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for life. In addition, we assess a fine of $10,000.
Yes, sir.
Count two, we the jury, having found the defendant Kody Lott guilty of the offense of aggravated assault as alleged in the indictment, assesses punishment of confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a term of 20 years. In addition, we assess a fine of $10,000. Is that also the verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that is the unanimous
It
verdict
was.
on each count. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, that concludes your service. It's yours in the case. I will release you in just a moment from that service. I will also release you from the prior obligation that you had not to discuss the case. You are, in fact, free from this point forward to discuss the case with anyone. You may also decline to discuss the case. I know in Wichita County, sometimes the attorneys will contact jurors after the trial to get feedback. If they do that, that's permissible, but then it's up to each one of you individually to respond or how you respond. You don't have to, but you may. What I would like for you to do before you leave is to go back to the jury room along with the alternates. I'd like to come back there and visit with you for just a moment. Then I'll release you with Mr. Costin. While we're in recess, will you prepare the judgment?
Yes, sir.
All right, jury's recessed to the jury room. Having found you guilty of each count as alleged in the indictment, and having set your punishment in count one at life in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division along with $10,000 fine, it's hereby the order of that court that you be sentenced to life in the institutional division and a $10,000 fine be imposed. This sentence is imposed today, September 20th, 2018. You will receive 747 days credit for the time you've served prior to today. Court costs in this case are waived. That same jury has found you guilty in count two and has set your sentence at 20 years confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and also has imposed a fine of $10,000 in that case. Therefore, the order of the court that you do be sentenced to the institutional division for a period of 20 years and a $10,000 fine being imposed. You'll also receive 747 days credit for the time you served in this case, and these cases will run concurrently. You may be seated. Are there victim impact statements?
Yes, sir, from both ends.
All right, those statements will be received by the court pursuant to the provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The court reporter is instructed not to record the statements. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Where would you like them to stand?
If they're comfortable, that's fine.
We've had so many people that have come into our lives, that changed our lives, but they changed them for the better. Each one of my kids have changed my life for the better. My husband changed my life for the better. And as a parent, I never thought in my wildest dreams, and I'd always taught my kids to say never say never. But as a parent, I never thought that I would be on this side, looking at the man who not only changed my daughter's life, but her family. And that would never, never be the same. I almost had pity on you But it wasn't until I heard things that I hadn't heard since that day, that had you had more ammo, you would have killed our daughter. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. My daughter is a strong girl, and we didn't know how strong she was until that day. And even stronger on last Thursday. That's one thing you won't be able to take from her. And so when she grows up and she has children, I hope she can pass that same strength on to her kids. You're evil. You're an evil person. I taught my kids to look out for the bad people. Look out for the people who may try to get you to go somewhere with them. I've never had a conversation with them to look out for someone that may want to take your life. I was sorry at first that no one ever stood up and took the time to make sure you had what you needed in life. Because I knew they had to know something was wrong. Early in your childhood, I know they had to know that. Because as a parent, I know when something is wrong with my kids. And me and my husband do anything we can to make sure that we can fix it. And nobody did that for you. So I don't know to be more angry at you or to be angry with the people that should have been looking out for you. But being that they didn't, you were able and capable without second thought to do what you did.
Cody, look at me. I sat here and listened to you talk. This is the first time I'd ever heard your voice. The only time I had ever seen your face before was in the mugshot, and then in the pretrial hearings that we would go to. And when I saw you in that mugshot, when I saw you in court, you looked evil, you looked hateful, you looked twisted. Look at me, please. You looked twisted, you looked evil. I had no pity on you. All I could think about was what you took from us, who you took from us. After you went for some treatment while you were gone, while you were being medicated, while you were trying to help you, and when you came back into court for the next hearing after that, when you walked in the room immediately, I was struck by the difference that I saw in you, that I saw in your face. And as I watched you that day, and I watched you sit in court and listen to the seriousness of what you had done, it seemed to me that you had finally had a realization of what you had done. And to me, you looked like a scared, lost little boy who was grasping for hope. I couldn't help but be touched by that, but to feel pity for you, for what you had done, to be that twisted inside, that empty, that lack of anything good, that you could do something like that. Despite myself, I felt ashamed of myself. I felt ashamed of myself for feeling pity for you. I didn't even tell my wife, I didn't tell Bianca that I felt that way. I didn't find out till last night that Bianca also, that day, felt those same things. I was too ashamed and too embarrassed, please look at me, too ashamed and too embarrassed to tell me that we felt pity for you. Despite what you had done to our daughter, to Makayla, to all those kids that were out there that day, the impact on so many people, I still felt pity for you. I was still struggling to try to find a way to forgive you, to not carry hatred. In my heart, you're a human being. I try to treat the world the way I want the world to treat what I treasure the most. It's my children, my daughter. You'll never know the treasure, the greatest treasure, the only thing that matters in life. It's not material things, not titles, not wealth, not power. It's love, and there's no greater love than the love of parents and children, between parents and children. You'll never know that. For that, I pity you. Choices that you made that day. The only thing that you said that was right was about how beautiful Lauren was. How she was an angel. She really was. She was sent down as a blessing. Part of our test in life. When you have a love like that you obviously don't know, there's nothing greater than that. It's the only thing you're going to take with you. out of this life. It's what you have in your heart. And I do pity you for what's in your heart, what's not in your heart. The choices you made caused so many other people to suffer. We have no choice. The grief that you gave us, we'll live with that until we die, until we go home and see our daughter. We don't have a choice. Choices that you made, you're going to suffer the consequences now. You're not going to know the greatest gift in life. You're not going to know what it feels like to be a father, to hold a baby, a child that you helped make. What you're going to know, fear, pain, humiliation for what you've done. And the ironic thing about that, if Lauren had known you, had known the pain you had inside of you, you had been able to reach out like a human being, that this is a good person I see, this is somebody, a light that I see, a goodness, you'd have reached out to her and let her know how empty and hateful you felt inside, Lauren would have been the first one to try to help you. That's who she was. She's everything good and hopeful about humanity that you're not. And you're not ever going to have a chance to prove that. But you made your own bed. I don't pity you for that. You made your own choices. You're going to suffer the consequences of those choices. It will never equal, no matter what pain you feel, it will never equal the pain of losing a child so senselessly. And yes, it was senseless. I've heard you use the term, what it's like to be a real man. Okay? You don't understand the first thing about being a real man. I think you do now. First thing you're doing, you're looking me in the eye. That's what a real man does. Okay? Not just pulling up on little girls with a gun, but being able to look me in the eye after what you've done. Maybe you have a spark of it. I do not wish the pain that you caused on your family, your mother, your father. I don't wish that on anyone. Okay? There's been a lot said about your parents and whether they were good parents or not good parents. I only know from a parent's perspective, at some point in your life, you were the center of their universe. Same way Lauren was the center of ours. Don't know what happened in your life to take you and make you do what you did that day. It allowed you to do what you did that day. And like I say, any excuse you gave or any reason you gave, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't be enough. But to see the manner with which you described it, and again, I had never heard you talk until I saw your confession. I expected when I saw it that it might, I was hoping almost that it would be something, you were timid, you were hesitant, you were remorseful. You haven't shown any of that. And then to find out even after you were treated, even when you looked different to me, strikingly different, that you hadn't changed the way you think inside. Still smiling and laughing about what you did. There was nothing funny, nothing for you to be proud of that day. You stole our daughter from us physically, but you did not kill her spirit. As you contemplate the rest of your miserable existence that you brought upon yourself, I hope you follow the things that we're trying to do in our daughter's memory and in her honor to try to keep her spirit alive and to spread that and to try to prevent, not just deal with consequences, but try to prevent tragedies like this from ever happening again, to try to make sure there aren't people like you out there preying on innocent people. And we don't mean by physical violence stopping you. We have to touch people's hearts. And that's the problem with the world. People don't look at each other as human beings. They don't treat each other like human beings. We divide ourselves. And again, we approach life as a contest. What can I do for me? What can I do for me? It's not what life is about. That's not what being a man is about. If you have all the power in the world, that doesn't make you a man. What makes you a man is what's inside your heart. Your empathy for other human beings. And the desire not to hurt anybody. That shouldn't even be an issue. But how can I help? How can I help somebody? I don't know if there is help for you. And I do feel pity for that. But that's your choice. You brought that on yourself. We all have to live with your choice that day. I hope within your heart that you're able to reconcile what you've done. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Start thinking about what you've done to others. Because whatever's in your heart, that's the only thing you're going to take with you when you leave.
The defendant is remanded to the custody of the Sheriff of Tarrant County to be transferred to Wichita County later today and then to the institutional division so that his sentence may be carried out. This court's adjourned.